FM.
KFC this summer, we are bucket together. Let's bucket together with KFC. Enjoy a Family 9 bucket today. The time by KFC is 1 o'clock.
Informative, educational, insightful. Let's talk justice and tackle topics like constitutional rights and reform, domestic violence, rights issues that affect you. Let's talk justice. Every Tuesday, 1 p.m. to 2 p.m. on The Bridge 99 FM. Call in, share your thoughts and questions. Be empowered. Know your rights. Let's talk justice. Courtesy of Jamaicans for Justice, JFJ. Ensuring access to justice for all.
Justice, justice for all. Justice.
KFC this summer, we are bucket together.
Well, I vibe with your crew, yeah, we are stay true, the taste is so good.
KFC bucket on the ends with the real one. Bucket Island, we are world champion.
All of we connect with the KFC.
Jam Rock celebrate we. KFC, we are bucket together. Let's bucket together with KFC. Enjoy a Family 9, Family 12, Party 15, or Party 21 bucket, because sharing a bucket with friends tastes finger licking good. KFC.
We say welcome home, Caribbean Airlines, yeah. Back on the go again, back on the road again. It's time to fly and get away, where we have no problems. It's just we friends and good vibes there. We restore, reset all the energy, ready to reconnect with the family. Our renewed commitment to we people them, to we people them. We say welcome home.
Hi, this is Butcher Barrington. You're tuned to Bridge 99 FM, taking the music from the Caribbean all the way to the diaspora globally.
The people's champion. Our mission is love. Our vision is love. Jamaicans by justice. The people's champion. Justice, justice for all. Justice under law. Justice.
Happy Tuesday. Welcome to another episode of Let's Start Justice. Thanks to our listeners for joining us each week. It's certainly good to be here, and we're going to get into the meat of the matter in short order. But just reminding those who are joining us that you can join us on the JFJ YouTube platform. Of course, you can listen via your radio at Bridge 99 FM or on the Bridge's website. And you can call us at 239-7583 or the studio lines at 676-4996. My name is Michael Jackson, Executive Director for JFJ.
And I'm Jade Williams, the Policy and Advocacy Specialist at JFJ.
How was your holiday, Jade?
I don't know if it was so much a holiday as it was a workaday. But,
okay.
But it was productive.
All right, perfect. We're going to be discussing the weekend as we recap the Human Rights Week. And, in my younger days, when there was the ATI and so on, we would bask in the joy of the nice dancehall music and so on in my much, much younger days. But I wonder sometimes if our youngsters, if we recognize the significance of Emancipation Day and Independence Day. And I say this because, as you know, I am privileged to be a part of the UCC adjunct faculty. Mm-hmm. And with that, you are engaging in, with the minds of the younger generation. And every semester I'm asked, Miss, we shouldn't stay with the UK. Why are we independent again? Yeah. And I'm not sure if that sense of national pride is there. So we looked at the beauty of the Grand Gala. Mm-hmm. And kudos to the team at the Ministry of Culture. But I often wonder if it is we understand the importance of Emancipation Day. Mm-hmm. And I enjoyed listening to Professor Vereen Shepherd rubbishing the call recently about joining the 2 days.
Yes.
And I stand with her on that. But for those who are not aware, after suffering through the greatest human rights, the injustice of close to 2 centuries, for those who don't remember the history, the Spaniards came and they conquered. Then they negotiated with the British, and we were under British rule from 1655. The greatest injustice to humanity was slavery. And when we were free in 1834, it was just those aged 6 and younger who were free. The British believed that we needed time to get acclimatized to freedom.
Yes.
And we went through a 4-year period of apprenticeship where our forefathers and foremothers were put to work for 40 hours per week at no cost to our enslavers. And those who enslaved us, they got £20 million as compensation for their loss. So we did not attain full freedom until 1838. And I want those who are listening in to really put things in context. And when we think about August 6th, 1962, for me, and somebody posted it on Twitter, that when that flag was first raised, hoisted, whatever the language is, forgive me. Hoisted, not foisted. Foisted when you throw something at somebody. Tears came because you felt that sense of pride. Mm-hmm. And I'm looking on now and I can't wait until we get rid of the monarchy altogether, because it is certainly something to celebrate. So for those who are listening, and I hope we really put in context the importance of emancipation and independence. But to move along quickly, as we celebrated the weekend and we looked at Grand Gala and so on, for those who watch sports, but I don't watch sports, I would not have been waking up at 3 a.m. in the morning. But we certainly celebrate our reggae girls, and we celebrate how far they came in the World Cup. So big up the team. Well done. And Jamaica stands with you with pride.
Yes, indeed.
But to close out our recap of the week, the last thing for me is, while we're celebrating, we are also mourning, because 15-year-old Jamila Cole, who was beaten and raped in a home invasion, it tugs at you in terms of the levels of violence against our children and the level of depravity that we see in this country. And let me choose my words carefully. Mm-hmm. Each time I see a parliamentarian lamenting on social media, I understand their outcry because we share it. But I want them to go to Parliament and really think through what can be done. Do we need to review the legislation? Do we need to be looking through policy, increased resources? What exactly is needed? Because I think the nation, we're tired of the outcry and the condemnation. I support a call I see from the Children's Advocate calling on the Prime Minister to address the nation. But beyond that, I think she also mentioned the need for stakeholder dialogue on the issue and so on. But I think we really need to come together as a country, because I can't imagine what that family is going through, who was also beaten in the home invasion.
Yes.
It saddens me, really. But anyway, that's where I leave it. So over to you, Jade.
Well, Michael always comes with these powerful introductions, and then I'm just to skip over to the right of the day.
Which is important.
Yes, it is. Okay, so this week we're more doing a Did You Know, which is a little bit related to what we're talking about today. And it comes from section 94 of our Constitution. And this Did You Know speaks to the powers of the Director of Public Prosecutions. And this section allows for the Director of Public Prosecutions to institute and undertake criminal proceedings against any person before any court other than a court-martial in respect of any offense against the law of Jamaica, to take over and to continue any such criminal proceedings that may have been instituted by another person or authority, and to discontinue those proceedings at any stage before the judgment is delivered, or whether or not it is undertaken by themselves or another party. So that allows the Director of Public Prosecutions, therefore, to institute proceedings, to take them over, and to discontinue them. And that is under Section 94 of our Constitution.
And just to put things in context, as you mentioned, that proceedings, just to break it down for the listeners. So, for example, you have a Director of Corruption Prosecution within the Integrity Commission, which is a commission of parliament. If it is that the DPP believes that for whatever reason she wants to take over that particular matter, discontinue it, then as the highest prosecutorial authority in our constitution, she is so authorized to do. So just to put that in context.
Absolutely. And we would see that also comes with a level of hierarchy where should the DPP's opinion disagree with that of another authority in terms of the prosecution, the DPP's opinion will usually prevail. So we'll also do our trivia question for the week, which is, where can we find an example of a savings law clause in Jamaica? So where can we find a savings law clause in our Jamaican legislative framework? So the correct answer to that can be sent to our WhatsApp number at 2397583 or on our Instagram pages at JA4Justice.
Alrighty, so today we're discussing a topic that has been on the airwaves across every media station, and certainly JFJ, we have been speaking publicly on the matter, which is the implications of the Constitution Amendment to Section 96, subsection 1, and Section 121, subsection 1 of the Jamaican Constitution. And as you are aware, on July 25, the House of Representatives passed a bill. I think this is the 18th, though. It was in the lower house, the bill was first passed, and then a couple of days after, something along that nature. I think we need to verify that date. So it was first passed in the lower house, and then the following Senate sitting, it was passed in the House of the Senate that saw the bill being amended. And this particular bill, it has the effect of raising the retirement age of the Director of Public Prosecution and the Auditor General from 60 years to 65 years. And as a consequence of that, what we're also going to be seeing is that there is the possibility now of the positions, both the DPP and the Auditor General, serving up to age 70.
And the bill was tabled by the Minister of Justice, and the reasoning put forward by the Minister of Justice, Honorable Delroy Chuck, was that the amendment would bring into congruence the age of retirement for the Auditor General and the DPP when compared to the upper limit set in the Pension Act for other public officers in the civil service, which in that act the age is 65.
So just to put some things in context here quickly before we go to those who are joining us, our guest, to point out there is nothing specifically in the Constitution that really speaks to how the DPP is to be appointed, but we're also guided by the section that speaks to the extension of the DPP, which really requires that the Prime Minister consults with the leader of the opposition. And the whole issue is whether or not that lack of consultation really undermines good governance and democratic process. And I know some have questioned the constitutionality of the move by the government, wherein you went to the lower house in less than 3 hours, a bill of this nature was amended, and then again it was foisted through the House of Senate the Friday following. So we also had attorney at law, Mr. Hugh Wildman, who will be with us, who brought a constitutional challenge against the government for the first extension, indicating that there were some challenges there, and we're going to be discussing that shortly. The court had ruled on that matter on July 31, but I want to be very clear, there are two different issues at play, and I think I'm concerned when I hear persons in authority conflating the issues in the media space, and I want our listeners to be very clear. There are two different issues. Mr. Wildman had challenged the constitutionality of the first extension, but the matter of the move in the age of retirement is a completely different matter. And then, of course, the opinions vary about whether or not that move was constitutional or lack thereof, or versus it just undermining democratic process. So we're going to take the break, and then when we return, we're going to be joined by Mr. Hugh Wildman, attorney at law, as well as Ms. Nastasia Robinson, attorney at law representing the Jamaica Bar Association.
Hi, I'm Ronald Thwaites, and I'm the host of The Public Eye and The Open Mind on The Bridge 99 and Irie Jam in the tri-state area. This program will tell you the truth about life back a yard. Fair, open talk, no gossip, no slander. We want to listen to your concerns, also want to help you with your problems in JA. We at The Bridge rate you and affirm our oneness as citizens of this blessed land we love. So join us now on Wednesdays on The Bridge, crossing the waters, linking Jamaicans and Jamaican lovers everywhere.
At Guardian General, we believe you can keep driving on the road without driving up your insurance premium, simply because our third-party policies are made to fit your pocket perfectly and give you peace of mind. Plus, you get extra benefits, such as windscreen coverage and further discounts when you pay your premium in full. Pay online or at any Guardian General office island-wide. What are you waiting for? Call us at 888-468-3474 for a free quote today. Live safe. Live easy.
This hurricane tip is brought to you by Guardian General Insurance Jamaica Limited. Live safe, live easy. Contact us at 876-926-3720 or visit us at www.myggonline and get a free quote today. Are you ready for this hurricane season? Here are a few tips to remind you on how best to prepare for a storm. Store extra food of 4 to 5 days, especially things that can be eaten without cooking or that would need very little preparation. Remember, the electricity may be off during the hurricane, leaving you without refrigeration. This hurricane tip is brought to you by Guardian General Insurance Jamaica Limited. Live safe, live easy.
The ultimate station to listen on the island is Bridge 99 FM. And remember, you ask the Bush dad say, to the world, Bridge, ever live. Bush.
The people's champion. Our mission is love. Our vision is love. Jamaicans by justice.
Welcome back to the show. As we said before we went to the break, we're discussing the implications of the constitutional amendment that will see in effect the age of retirement for both the DPP and the Auditor General being affected. And Jade just clarified to me that we are correct, or she is correct rather. I don't know why she's shy to make the correction publicly, to say that it is in fact July 25 that the House of Representatives had passed the bill. Are we joined by our guest? Mr. Wildman? Good afternoon. Thank you so much for joining us. Ms. Robinson?
Hi, good afternoon, Mikhail.
Thank you so much, Nastasia. I appreciate you as always. Mr. Wildman, let us just... Sorry?
Hi. Hello, Nastasia. Thanks for joining us.
Mr. Wildman, let's start with you. I just want you to clarify for the listeners the constitutional challenge that you had brought, or the court challenge that you had brought with the first extension. Okay. Because as I was saying before, I think people are conflating that particular court matter with the constitutional amendment. Yeah.
That's correct. Okay, fine. Our constitutional challenge is a simple one. We're saying that based on the evidence that was presented in court, in fact, when we made the challenge, there was no evidence of an appointment in keeping with the Constitution. After we mounted the challenge, they produced a gazette to try and give validity to the appointment. And the gazette that was produced suggests that an extension was granted on the 26th of August 2020 to take effect on the 21st of September 2020 for a further 3 years. We say that that extension is invalid for the following reason. One, we contend that before she reached 60, there must be evidence of a valid appointment pursuant to an agreement in keeping with Section 96(1)(b) of the Constitution. Because Section 96(1) says that a DPP shall vacate office on reaching the age of 60. So that is a key section. That is a touchstone. So once you reach 60, you can't get a further extension. Any extension that is granted must be done before you reach 60. We say in the present case, that was not done. The Gazette proposed to give an extension on her birthday, which is contrary to Section 16 of the Interpretation Act, which makes it clear that it must be done at least one clear day before her birthday. So we maintain that we are on good ground to say that the extension that was granted in 2020 is illegal. And in fact, when you read paragraph 32 of the judgment of the full court, they get it. It is our view that they got it clearly wrong, because the court proposed to say in that judgment that you could get an extension after you reach 60, which is contrary to Section 96(1).
I don't have the judgment at hand, Mr. Wildman, but from recollection, I remember what was also argued was that the Prime Minister had in fact notified the Governor General much in advance.
And there's no evidence of it. Nothing of that. There was no letter from the Prime Minister to the GG to say that. What happens is that what we have is an implied assertion from the GG to say, making reference to the Prime Minister's communication to him. That in law is not evidence. So we're saying that there is no even evidence of an agreement which had to be done before she reached 60. But the key thing is this: there was no appointment of the DPP for an extension before she reached the age of 60. You go back to Section 31(1) of the Interpretation Act, which says that the Gazette, it must take effect. It can be on a publication, or if the Gazette says otherwise. In this case, the Gazette did not take effect on publication. It took effect on the 21st of September, and we are saying that it must take effect one clear day before her birthday, which is the 21st of September. So we have filed an appeal in that matter on Friday.
Oh, you did?
Yes, clearly. And we have some very good grounds of appeal. So that was done on Friday. We think we're on clear grounds for that, to say that the appointment, the extension that was granted, does not comport with the Constitution.
Are you in the position, Mr. Wildman, before we get into why we're here really, to indicate on what grounds you filed the appeal?
I can send you a copy of the notice now.
Please, thank you.
Yes.
Vanessa, can you just share the email to Mr. Wildman?
Yes.
Pardon me?
No, I was just asking our producer to share the email with you.
Yes. You can get it here right now.
All right. So while we do that, as we said, there are two different issues.
Yes.
And so I'm just going to segue to Ms. Robinson to articulate Jambar's position on what they found to be wanting, for lack of a better word, with the constitutional amendment that was JFJ's word now, rushed and bamboozled through Parliament.
I would like to reiterate that is JFJ's wording and not Jambar's wording. But as was stated in the release by Jambar, we are concerned with the lack of consultation. So we agree and we understand that a consultation isn't strictly necessary, but in the way that it was done, we do see grounds for which a constitutional challenge can be raised, especially if it is that this amendment effectively works as an extension for the current Director of Public Prosecution. Jambar's position is that the amendment in and of itself in and of itself, in the strictest sense. If the government were to say amend the age, that's not a position we take a challenge with. What we take a challenge with is the manner in which this was done, the lack of consultation, the timing of it as well. I think the timing speaks volumes, and we have to consider how this comes across, especially when we're talking about the office of the Director of Public Prosecution. It is one of those that is held in high regard in the country, and the amount of scrutiny that has been raised is one that the office should not attract, and so we're concerned with the negative implications that this amendment can take, especially, like I said, if the amendment were to take place in and of itself, outside of this timing, and the timing I'm referring to is the current extension ends in shy of a month, or just about
in September.
Right, and this amendment was done shy of 2 years, 2 months of the end of that extension. So it doesn't. It seems improper on the face of it, especially if it is that this amendment is to apply to the current DPP. And that's where we draw the line. If it is that the Constitution is amended and a new DPP is appointed under the new rules, fine. However, if it is that the constitutional amendment proceeds and the incumbent remains in office under the new amendment, then that would take an issue with, because that is in effect an extension, which is not permitted by the Constitution. A further extension, which is not permitted by the Constitution.
So just to put things in context for those who are listening in, just to follow the conversation, there are different issues at play here. Yes. As we articulated before, the DPP had gotten an extension prior, which would have ended. She had applied for 5 years, I believe, but only 3 would have been granted, and that ends September. That matter has been, an appeal has been filed, and we will follow up with that discussion shortly with Mr. Wildman. But beyond that particular matter, I think all well-thinking Jamaicans, and let me not use the word well-thinking because I think sometimes it can come across condescending. Most people agree that the age of retirement being changed in keeping with what exists for other civil servants is quite fine. We're okay with it. But when we talk about the manner in which it was done, it being rushed through Parliament, and whether or not it is a de facto second extension. So in other words, another extension could not have been granted. So is this rush circumventing what the Constitution would not have allowed? That is the issue that people are having. And just to follow up with you, Nastasia, we've heard from Minister of Justice Chuck. We've heard from the Minister of Legal and Constitutional Affairs saying that the Constitution does allow for a simple majority to have this bill being passed, and there was nothing improper. What is Jambar's reaction to both Minister Chuck and Minister Malahoo Fort?
Our response is that is a technicality, and a dangerous technicality to be wielded at that. While in essence, that is true, it still remains that the lack of a consultative process, especially for an office that requires complete lack of scrutiny, the lack of consultative process gives, when one is required in other circumstances, for example, the appointment of the DPP, it begs the question, again, why was this rushed? Why is this done 2 months before the current extension ends? There are a lot of questions that arise. And so even though it is technically correct and you can amend by a simple majority, if it is that the current DPP remains on the amendment, what the government has done is effectively given an extension where the Constitution does not allow for it. And that is a serious constitutional concern. So while it is that the amendment could take place, we have to look at the implications thereafter. So yes, the amendment can take place, but what happens after? Is the current DPP going to remain given the extension before? given the timing of it, given the lack of consultation, those things, Jambar, those are the concerns of Jambar on this issue.
All right, thank you so much. We're going to take the break, but I know when we return, Jade has a pressing question for Mr. Wildman that she will follow up with. But before we take the break, I want to be very clear to the listeners, despite what you may hear in the public space, which is my disappointment with some public officials, this is not a politicking issue for civil society organizations such as JFJ and Jambar. This is a matter of what is constitutionally appropriate in a democratic society. So for those who are listening, and I hope we're on the same page where that is concerned. But we take the break and we return shortly.
KFC this summer, we are bucket together. Let's bucket together with KFC. Enjoy a Family 9 bucket today. The time by KFC is
1:31.
You are a musician. You also know today's entertainment industry requires a variety of performance and production skills. Is there a path to employment in commercial music and entertainment? Did you know hotels, cruise ships, schools, media houses, and production companies are looking for employees trained in music performance? And entertainment is growing. The Alpha School of Music is ready to help you develop the skill set needed to make a successful transition to work in the international entertainment industry. Applications are now being accepted for the associate's degree in music performance. You can be a part of an award-winning music performance program in Jamaica, powered by over 100 years of internationally respected music education. Alpha is ready to set the stage for your career success with a new modern suite of practice, performance, and technology facilities. Get heard. Make your music passion your music career. Start now at the Alpha School of Music. Visit alphamusicja.com today.
Come back to Jamaica to the 33rd Annual Maritone Music Family Reunion and Homecoming, October 27 to 30, 2023. Join us at the Four Diamond All-Inclusive Hyatt Rose Hall Resort in Montego Bay. Maritone group rates are available for a limited time. Check out our Reunion 3-tour room special and save. Bring your friends, bring your family, bring your dancing shoes. Kingston events start October 21. Visit www.maritonemusic.com or call 954-558-2002. Sponsored by Jamaica Tourist Board.
KFC this summer, we are bucket together.
Well, I vibe with your crew, yeah, we are stay true, the taste is so good.
KFC bucket on the ends with the real one. On the island, we are world champion.
All we connect with the KFC.
Jamrock celebrate KFC, we are bucket together. Let's bucket together with KFC. Enjoy a Family 9, Family 12, Party 15, or Party 21 bucket, because sharing a bucket with friends tastes finger-licking good. KFC.
One love, one art, one Jamaica. On the Bridge 99 FM.
The people's champion. Our mission is love. Our vision is
Welcome back to Let's Talk Justice. We are discussing the implications of the recent amendment to the Constitution, sections 96 and 121. Mr. Wildman, before the break, Nastasia made an interesting point about the DPP remaining in the role with the current amendment. And my question is there any way for this amendment to go through without automatically retroactively extending this tenure? And if there is, what would be the appropriate procedure to ensure that that does not take place?
Well, to clarify the question, Jade, before Mr. Wildman answers, is not if it is to go through the amendment, it's no law.
Yes, my apologies.
Yes, because it was assented by the Governor General.
Yes, as it has gone through.
So the law was passed, clearly.
Yes.
Yeah, I made a point on another program that amendment can be challenged insofar as it seeks to prolong the life of the existing DPP. It cannot have that effect. It must only apply to a future DPP, because to do so would be to undermine the very fabric of Section 96, which already states that you can't get more than one extension once you reach the age. Mm-hmm. So she'd have reached the age and she got the extension. So you can't now make an extension, an amendment to increase that life. Because what you'll be doing, you'll be undermining the entire Section 96 of the Constitution, which clearly says you can only get one extension. And two, what you'll be doing and saying is that all persons who were required to retire at a particular age, 60, that an amendment is done to increase the age, then those persons could come out of retirement and say, look here, this amendment applies to me because I was retired when I was 60. And now a law has been passed to say that the retirement age is 65.
Yes.
So it can't apply to the current holder. It must only apply to a future DPP. So any attempt on the part of the state to prolong the life of the present DPP by reference to the amendment can be challenged. In fact, if you go back to the Burnett case, that is the CCJ case, the Privy Council used that approach, the interpretation of the Constitution, to strike down the creation of the CCJ, insofar it applies to Jamaica, though the Constitution allows for a simple majority to abolish appeals to the PC. The Privy Council, the very spirit of the section, requires that anything we're to put in place must be entrenched. So we are saying you can't now just ignore the scheme of 96 and say, because it's a simple majority, you can increase the age, then you can now make it retroactive to apply to the current holder. It can't.
So, I mean, in that event, what should be the next steps then?
A constitutional challenge to the amendment, insofar that you have to wait until you can't be premature. Yes. You have to wait to see if any attempt is being made to apply the amendment to the present DPP. So it's fine. Nothing is wrong with the amendment insofar as you seek to increase the age, but if they seek to apply to the present DPP, then one can take a constitutional challenge to that.
Thank you so much, Mr. Wellman. I'm going to ask you to hold with us for a few, and let me put a last question to Ms. Robinson. Nastasia, you've heard what Mr. Wellman said, and we've also heard from the Prime Minister, the Most Honorable Andrew Holness, at a media briefing, it was last week, and he indicated that any continuation of the current office holder is subject to the current office holder. So in other words, Mr. Andrew Holness is putting it entirely on the DPP to indicate whether or not she should or would remain in office. Is there any last word from Jambar on that? Was there any reaction?
We haven't had a formal sit down, but it is in line with what our previous notions have been, which is that it is not up to the current DPP whether she remains in office. It is a constitutionally appointed office, and the Constitution sets out how an individual serves in that office. It is not simply a decision that can be made by the person in office. Therefore, it would be for Parliament to actually make a determination whether or not current DPP will be remaining in office under the amendments. It is not something that can be assumed. It is not something that the current DPP can make or ought to make a decision on anyway. That is a constitutional issue if it is that is the position of the government.
All right, thank you so much, Ms. Robinson. We appreciate you being here. Mr. Wildman, just to continue with you, and I'd want to say this before we segue into the next question. You know, my personal disappointment with this whole thing. JFJ, as you know, we do constitutional challenge and strategic litigation, but it is unfortunate that we have to be going this route when Parliament and what it intends to be could simply debate the matter and also heed to the words of civil society and individuals such as yourself.
Yes.
So I blame it really on the government to be subjecting the DPP.
That's correct.
In this manner. You know, it's unfortunate,
That's
really.
Correct.
And I see others on social media. I know Clyde Williams one of our colleagues. He has been on Twitter indicating whether or not this retroactive application would so apply.
Yes.
And I think some of his tweets are aligned with the views that you articulated earlier.
Yes.
So it's interesting days are ahead.
Yes.
And just to say, you would be willing to challenge this if nobody else take it up?
In fact, I've said so. I've said so. That I'll be willing to do so. And in fact, I intend to do so if they plan to go ahead with it.
Okay. Thank you so much. To move on to another issue, Mr. Wildman, we saw the interdiction of the Police Federation chair.
Yes.
And JFJ, we spoke very strongly against it.
Yes.
Because we believe that it is a violation of freedom of speech, or freedom of expression, rather. And we believe it also threatens one's right to freely associate.
Yes.
If we look at the precedent of what can be set at this stage.
Yes.
And I know you had a matter heard in court last week. Would you be in the position to articulate?
Yes.
Please go ahead.
The matter is not actually heard as yet. What really happened is that we filed an application for leave for judicial review to quash the decision of the assistant commissioner to place Mr. James on interdiction. And accompanying that application for leave for judicial review is an application for a stay of the interdiction.
Yes.
Now, when both matters came up last week before the judge, we were about to commence the proceedings when the judge indicated to me after I commenced my oral submission that she recognized that I was raising some fundamental constitutional principles, and so she would want to hear from the Attorney General as to how to respond to these submissions. So in light of that, she was prepared to adjourn the application for the judicial review and the stay.
Yes.
We were disappointed because we are saying that it doesn't require that, because this is an application for leave for judicial review and a stay. And in these applications, it is really against the decision maker. The AG has nothing to do with matters of this nature, because it is not civil proceedings where you come under the Crown Proceedings Act. So what happens is that although you may be raising constitutional points, you're not asking the court, and this court is not a constitutional court, to strike down a particular law. The court will take cognizance of the violation of the Constitution, just like what the Privy Council did, for example, in Kirk Mollison, and interpret the law in keeping with the Constitution. So there's no need for the AG to be involved in these proceedings. Anyhow, she insisted that she wanted to get the AG's input. So in light of that, she wanted to adjourn the case to the 28th of September. So we are saying, if you are going to adjourn the case, which we are in disagreement with, then in the interim, the man is on interdiction, and we had asked for a stay of the interdiction, and also is on three-quarter pay.
Yes.
And disciplinary proceedings were also pending. So the other side, she spoke to the other side. And the other side, having heard our argument, submission, because I cited particular cases on the point to show that they are wrong. So she came back and agreed that they will adjust the salary to 99% from the 75%. And they will also put on hold the disciplinary hearing until the matter is heard.
Yes.
So we got two important changes there. We were also saying that because we are ready to proceed and the court is not ready, then you should also put the interdiction on hold and allow the man to go back on this job until the case is heard. She said that she was not prepared to go that far at this stage because that is like determining the case.
Yes.
So we are saying no fault of ours why the case can't be heard. We are ready, and it is the court's position that it wants to go to adjourn the case. So she's not willing to go that far. We have filed an appeal on that because it's not a trial, it's just a case management.
Yes.
So we have filed an appeal against that case management order not to reinstate the man until the case is heard. And that is now before the Court of Appeal. So
when is that likely to
fine. So the Court of Appeal has indicated to us that because the court is on recess now, if they are to sit it has to be absolutely urgent. And so we have to file an application to have this matter heard during the summer vacation. We have done that to this morning, so we are waiting on a response from the Court of Appeal.
Okay. All right. So, and I'm happy you made those clarifications, because the earlier report, and I listened to you on
misleading report.
Yes. It suggested as if there was a complete loss.
No. We have not heard the case has not been heard as yet.
Yes, and I'm happy you corrected me on that language, because I also heard a few interviews that you were on with Mr. Peter Champagne on this very matter.
Yes.
All right, but we, notwithstanding, because I know people may articulate.
Mr. James has an excellent chance, because, not only do they breach the Constitution in terms of trying to violate the man's right to freedom of expression, they've also breached the very regulation under which he was interdicted, because the regulation prescribe how this things to be done, and they totally violate that. So that is another basis on which we are seeking to quash it.
Yes. We welcome the move, because people are conflating what is appropriate language or speech to be said at a funeral with what is an appropriate response from the High Command. JFJ stands with Mr. James in this regard, certainly.
The question is this, the man spoke truthfully. Nothing that he said can be said to be untrue. You understand? So you can't say that the man was speaking of the things that are not true. Everything he said is true. So the question is, can you punish him for speaking the truth because he spoke truth to power? No.
All right. Thank you so much, Mr. Wildman. We appreciate your presence on the program.
Thanks very much.
All right. We take the break.
Hi, I'm Ronald Thwaites, and I'm the host of The Public Eye and The Open Mind on the Bridge 99 and Ira Jam in the tri-state area. This program will tell you the truth about life back a yard. Fair, open talk. No gossip, no slander. We want to listen to your concerns. Also want to help you with your problems in JA. We at The Bridge rate you and affirm our oneness as citizens of this blessed land we love. So join us now on Wednesdays on The Bridge, crossing the waters, linking Jamaicans and Jamaican lovers everywhere.
They're off! The Bridge 99 FM is on track, bringing you horse racing from Caymanas Park this and every Saturday and Sunday.
It's a groundbreaking partnership with Supreme Ventures Racing and Entertainment Limited
and the Big Bridge 99 FM for gripping Sport of Kings races to you everywhere.
Simulcasting on Ira Jam Radio in New York.
Up to 20 races on Saturdays and Sundays from 11:30 a.m. through 6 p.m.
It's horsepower from your favorite thoroughbreds head-to-head for victory.
All this plus mad music mixes. Sometimes some of them are rally back. Only on the Bridge 99 FM to the world.
So anytime you're passing on Garden Town Road, remember to check out the MDs that are. Flags and Jamaican items also are here. Key rings and necklaces and pendants. See? So big up the Bridge 99 FM to the world. You see me? That's Malikat say it, Alright?
Someone must know. The Bridge 99 FM, keeping the Caribbean connected.
The people's champion. Our mission is love. Our vision is love.
Welcome back to Let's Start Justice. We've had several extending discussions today, but we most recently discussed with Mr. Hugh Wildman, attorney at law, the interdiction of Corporal Rowan James. And I was saying to Mikkel in the break, and chastised for saying it in the break and not on air, so let me say it on air. That this issue of bringing the profession into disrepute, quote unquote, is something that a lot of professions have. And I know, particularly as an attorney,
your legal canons, eh?
Yes, it is in our legal professional act that as an offense against the act to bring the profession into disrepute. And the concern is really, how does this mesh with our general right to freedom of expression and to disseminate ideas and information? Because what if the profession needs to be brought into disrepute?
Yeah,
What if
it's a
there
balance
is-
with public interest matters.
Absolutely.
And for Mr. Rohan James in particular, one can't forget the particular role that he plays, wherein you're advocating on behalf of thousands of rank and file officers. And in that regard, not every conversation would be had privately, because when you are not being listened to, or so on, then a certain level of advocacy would be required, certainly.
You know, I think it's not outside of the spirit of some of the, even outside of our context, there's a general spirit of protest happening.
But Jay, let me say this.
Yes.
We at JFJ, through the official channels of the organization, personally, I've had medical personnel, your doctors in your public hospitals,
Yes.
same rank and file officers
Yeah.
have reached out to JFJ. Others at other state agencies, one of the matters we will revisit in the organization to see if it's something we can assist with publicly, have said to us, we can't speak.
Yes.
We've gotten memo and we are witnessing issues that we believe the public ought to know, but we are being silenced by our supervisors at the highest levels.
And I'll go further, Mikhail. It's not just about what the public need to know. It's that even internally trying to bring attention to the matters is bringing conflict.
But it's a concern because we can't be operating in a space wherein you have a protected disclosure act.
Yes.
And people feel as if they speak, they will face occupational detriment. It's a dangerous trend when we saw that recently with Mr. James, which is why, we have to be concerned with what is politically correct and appropriate with what he said at the funeral versus whether or not that response from the high command was necessary or was proportional to what was said. But as we're talking about what is respect, Jade, if you would allow me, there is a message that came from our former Prime Minister, P.J. Patterson, and I want to read a few lines from it. Our former Prime Minister quotes our national anthem, "Teach us true respect for all." And he goes on to say, utterances from some in the political sphere and positions of authority belittle us as a nation and also undermine respect for all. Public respect is rapidly descending to an all-time low. The language used routinely is distasteful, disgraceful, and comments are derogatory. The tone of their delivery is devoid of respect. Increasingly, the public is made to ensure intensely negative public disclosure that abuses, demeans, and vilifies others. Instead of mutual respect, a small but vociferous number of our public speakers are consistently mean-spirited and vulgar. This appalling deterioration cannot be allowed to continue without our clear denunciation as one people out of many. Mr. Patterson says this line, which I found to be most profound in his message. He says, "We dare not remain silent as it cannot be condoned." And I just want to indicate that for the past several weeks, we've gotten some comments from public officials, including parliamentarians, and some of which we've said and publicly condemned on this program. We've heard a particular minister saying that the Integrity Commission is lacking in integrity, using their parliamentary shield and privilege to disparage people who are there to uphold the law and hold them accountable. We've heard utterances from another minister, Warmington that is, and kudos I said on this particular program where Minister Bartlett shut it down. We've heard a particular senator went into the House and made other comments that I found wanting. Then we heard the loose lips of our leader of opposition talking about dead voters. He later apologized, which was welcome, but it should not have happened 3 days after.
Yes.
And the silence from the Prime Minister was not a welcome one, because the Prime Minister had not spoken until weeks after these types of comments were being made. And then Mr. Isaac Buchanan took away from the issue of the constitutional amendment by making some comments which I do not believe his apology was sufficient. Notwithstanding our opinions on certain matters, Mr. Buchanan and Dr. Dayton Campbell, the Paula must go language, we can't condone it. There is another video circulating of a past act with MP Vaz and same Dayton Campbell. Meet me outside in the House of Parliament that ought to be sacred in making the laws of this country. So, former Prime Minister's statement, PJ Patterson, is most needed at this time. And I want to urge all Jamaicans, we dare not remain silent, as it cannot be condoned. At some point, we have to take on the colors of politics and think about the colors of our Jamaican flag and say that we're not going to stand for this. At some point, we have to do better. As public officials, we have to, my usual word, we have to be circumspect in what we say and how we say it, the manner in which it is said. I'm not sure if any of these things shocked you, Jade.
You know, it is unfortunate. Maybe the first two incidents were shocking, but I feel as though the constant and continuous acting in this manner has jaded me. And so
jaded.
Yes, I am happy to see this level of condemnation from someone so respected in our political sphere, and hopefully it is influential going forward.
And what is ironic? This is a Prime Minister who said silence cannot be misquoted. Yes. So when he says we dare not remain silent, I smiled at it, because that is the iconic statement from PJ Patterson.
Yes.
So when he said break the silence, you know that it is really sending the signal.
Yes, yeah. and I think it is important, because we need to be able to identify. I agree that we need to be able to identify those persons who are not in agreement with the way the conduct has been shown amongst our officials.
We have to demand better.
Yes.
With a voter turnout, the last time, 37%?
Yes.
Notwithstanding COVID. You ask the question, when people see them kind of behavior there, what are them going to be doing? Who's going to be voting for officials? The perception of the level of corruption in this country is very high.
Yes.
We don't know who those named 6 parliamentarians are for that illicit enrichment. So when you think about it, it's not just perception alone, but let us be frank here, right? Then you think about the crime levels. There was an article, to move quickly, by Jason, I can't remember his name now. He reaches out to us sometimes from Jamaica Observer. He wrote a very good article wherein a young lady says that her son, he does not fall asleep until about 5 a.m. each morning. A child. He's that fearful.
That not just fearful, traumatized.
Yeah. It's not the rolling cough. Why we didn't sleep when we were younger, you know?
Yes.
The rolling cough story and so on. But now a child is not going to sleep until early in the morning, because, as you say, the probability of crime affecting him. And I'm sure others can tell you the story of when them have a duck pan grung and them something dodging from gunshot. Absolutely. Come on. Parliamentarians, public officials, do better. All right, over to you, Jade.
Okay, so we unfortunately, second week in a row, we don't have our correct answer for our trivia.
You're framing something too bright, man.
Listen, it's enough credit them getting. So, if it is that you think of that answer, be sure to respond to our post on our Instagram page at JA for Justice.
Is the question asking, give me an example of a savings law clause?
It's a which part you find it.
Or it's where you find it? But me not forgot look. I don't know either.
Exactly.
You see, as for sort of people that mind man with a long constitution.
If you would like to win a credit, use the elasticity of your brain. It's an educational program, so you'll learn even research skills in the process. But thank you so much for joining us this week. We'll look out for a trivia winner, but should we get a correct answer by the end of the day?
Won't get it.
It's Confident Palmer.
Confident Palmer. Carol Palmer is a former permanent secretary of Ministry of Justice. I worked with her in my younger days, yes. But Confident Palmer will get it, I'm sure. She always does.
Yes.
But thank you so much for joining us. We appreciate you. Yes. Have a good week.
Jamaicans, by justice, the people's champion. Justice, justice for all. Justice under law. Justice, Jamaica the law. Right to life, right to liberty. Out of many we are one in a Jamaica. Jamaica, make it a better place for the boys and girls. Created equal by the creator. For equal rights and opportunities. No to unlawful detention and police brutalization. Class, gender, race or religion. We not tolerate discrimination.
To join the fight against injustice, contact us at 755-4524 or Jamaicans4Justice.org.
The people's champion.
What up, New York? What up, Jam Down? It's The Bridge, 99 FM.
KFC this summer, we a bucket together.
Well, I vibe with your crew, yeah, we are stay true, the taste is so good.
KFC bucket on the ends with the real one. On the island, we are world champion.
All we connect with the KFC.
Jam Rock celebrate.